We are live on air on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max, and we're back with Joe Baldwin doing another Pixar ranking. And today we're doing best Pixar duos. So we've done heroes, villains, movies, but we have not done duos, which is one of the most iconic parts of Pixar that I think goes underrated when you talk about Pixar. But we have 10. We're doing our top 10 list as usual, and we have some honorable mentions as well. Leave questions in the chat. We'll answer that after we're done our ranking, and then we'll hit that like button. That's the best way to support the channel. So, Joe, tell us some of your honorable mentions for Pixar duos that couldn't make your top 10.
All right, my honorable mention. My first honorable mention may shock some people, but I have Mike and Sully as an honorable mention. Because I think they're a great powerhouse. Like they're awesome together. They work really well together. I think the reason it doesn't make my top 10 is because I like Sully so much more than I like Mike in the first movie. Because I feel like Mike does a lot of things that I can't get behind. And I mean, that's part of his character and that's part of what makes the story engaging. But just because there are certain moments where I love Sully so much more than I like Mike, I feel like the duo is a little skewed. My other honorable mention, I sort of did this with our MCU heroes list, so I'm going to do it again. My second honorable mention is Joe Gardner and the unnamed Soul in Pixar's upcoming Soul movie, because I just want to put good vibes out there. Yeah. I just want to say, like, okay, here I'm ready for it. I want this movie to be good, and I'm hoping that it's going to live up to that. So yeah. You heard it here first.
Fascinating. Two honorable mentions. A stunner and then one that hasn't even come out yet. So off to a blazing start, Joe. I have two honorable mentions as well. My first one is Arlo and Spot from The Good Dinosaur. A movie that, again, I don't love, but they're easily the best part. Their relationship is easily the best part of The Good Dinosaur. The fact that Arlo finally finds a friend after his family, basically he gets abandoned. So I think that their relationship, I did get kind of emotional when Spot left Arlo for the humans. If you feel that, their relationship has been really solid. But again, it doesn't really click all the time. It feels kind of rushed, and it doesn't make a lot of sense in the beginning of how they meet, but it's a very good one. And for me, my other honorable mention is Dash and Violet. I consider them a duo from Incredibles. Just can't hit that list. And as you said about your Mike and Sully, I prefer Dash way more than Violet. So Dash is one of my top three favorite Pixar characters. So Dash and Violet are my number 11. So let's get ready for our top 10. Joe, tell us your number 10 Pixar duo.
My number 10 Pixar duo is Carl and Russell. I think, I've said this before, Up is a fantastic movie, but among my Pixar list, it's not as high up. And as much as I love this dynamic, I think I love more other dynamics more. Carl and Russell, it is truthfully just, it's one of those opposites complement each other relationships. It works so well with Carl's experienced cynicism, with Russell's unparalleled optimism. And I think it's one of those things that on a rewatch, it really hammers home the idea is that Carl and Ellie wanted kids. They didn't have kids, and then Ellie died, and then Carl, in this adventure to let go of his feelings for Ellie, is being helped by a child, and then they're ending together. It's so sweet. I really enjoy it. But just because Up is not one of my favorites, I've got better ones down the road.
Yeah, I do like that one a lot as well. My number 10 is Lightning McQueen and Doc Hudson. So I actually went with Doc over Mater. Because I think their relationship, for me, is the best part of the Cars films. Especially makes the first one watchable for me at times. Because, again, as I said about my review, you can check it out already in our other ranking, but Cars on the lower tier for me. But the best part of when Lightning goes to Radiator Springs is his bond with Doc Hudson, who we find out was he's one of probably the greatest racer of all time. And it's sad that, Paul Newman died, so we couldn't see Doc Hudson in either 2 and 3. But I love their relationship in 1. I think it's still the best part of that movie, best part of the Cars films. And there's a reason why they keep bringing up Doc in 2 and 3, even though he's not even in it. So you really feel their relationship, especially when Doc coaches him in the 3rd act. So I really enjoy that relationship. Joe, do you want to add on? Do you want to go to your number 9 here?
I want to add on because this is what we were talking about before the stream started about the tricky part of this list, which is that we just think about duos so differently because that's a fantastic one that I totally didn't think of.
Yeah.
And given time, and if I thought about it, it might replace something else on my list. But because I didn't think of it, I'll roll into my number 9, which might be surprising given my favorite Pixar movie. My number 9 is Mr. and Mrs. Incredible, or Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl. I think they're great together. It's such a they're a great crime fighting duo. They're a great husband and wife duo.
Yeah. The
banter they have is so it's what part of what makes The Incredibles such a great movie, and it makes you really feel like this is a real family. The lengths they go to save one another. I mean, Mr. Incredible gets caught, and then Elastigirl's whole sequence to get it back. There's so much good stuff to say. Even they're just arguing while fighting the giant robot is fantastic. The reason I don't have them farther up my list is because we don't see a lot of them together in the movies, because part of what moves the movies along is their separation, which is that they're trying to reunite. So we don't get to see them as much as a duo, I think. And same with Incredibles 2, which is that the whole point is that Elastigirl is in the spotlight while Mr. Incredible is staying home. So we just don't see as much of them together as I would like. So that's why it's my number 9.
I mean, I was going to say, to bring up Incredibles 2 as well into that, I like their banter. I think it's funnier in 2 when, especially when that scene where Mr. Incredible's calling Elastigirl, and Elastigirl's like, "Oh my God, I did this, stop the train," and he's just so pissed. It's hilarious. Yeah. I do love their duo as well. My number 9 might be lower on most people's, higher on most people's list, but it's on the lower end for me in my top 10. And that is Wall-E and Eve from Wall-E. As that could be in your top 3, Joe. But again, as I've told you guys here on this channel, I am not the hugest fan of the movie. I think it's a fine movie, but again, easily the best part of the movie is their romance/relationship between Wall-E and Eve. And that's continuously great throughout the entire runtime. Just the seeing Eve for the first time and Wall-E's reaction, just following her around for 10 minutes straight in the movie, was really cute. They're very cute together, especially towards the end of the movie. Even when Eve turns off, Wall-E still cares for Eve in the first act. So again, I really love their relationship that becomes a romance towards the end of the movie. Again, the movie doesn't hit as home for me as other films. That's why Wall-E and Eve aren't as high up. But there's nothing doubting that they're one of the best duos we have in Pixar. So that's why it's my number 9. Joe, move into your number 8.
My number 8 is Marlon and Dory. Mm-hmm. I think this could be higher up on my list, but again, I haven't seen Finding Nemo in a very long time. But from what I remember of it, Marlon and Dory are a dynamic duo. They're so great. I'm a fairly anxious person, and seeing the anxiety in Marlon throughout the movie as a father who's lost his child is heartbreaking. But also having his counterpart throughout the movie as someone who truly lacks that anxiety. Such an interesting dynamic because sometimes that makes an anxious person even more anxious. Sometimes it calms them down. It's just it's a well done dynamic. Dory is just lost, and she latches on to Marlon to just go somewhere. And I think I'm losing words. I really do enjoy it. I just haven't seen Finding Nemo in ages, so I can't put them any higher on my list.
And I'm going to add on because Marlon and Dory are also my number 8. And again, I've seen Nemo and Dory, the 2 movies, as very recently in the past month or 2. So I really enjoy them together. I'm not the biggest fan of Dory, but Dory is easily really great in the first movie, and that's because her relationship with Marlon is so strong. That's why I'm not a huge fan of Finding Dory, because you put Dory by herself basically the whole movie. And while she's annoying in the first one, obviously, Marlon kind of is the grumpy old guy basically with her, and it's very funny. They're dynamic. But once you pull that out of the second movie, Dory doesn't get the same emotional feel. But I really did this because in the first movie, they're so great together. The fact that Dory actually can remember this tag in the search of Nemo, the fact that Marlon, who we didn't really see care for anyone after the shocking, horrific opening scene of his wife and hundreds of kids dying in the opening scene, and then losing Nemo, the fact that he actually cares for someone else is just a great character arc for him in the movie. And you like that they stick together as friends even towards the end of the movie heading into the sequel. So as Joe perfectly said, they're a great duo. They really make, again, these duos carry Pixar films really on their backs. And obviously because, now this one doesn't do it as much as other films because I really love Nemo with the other creatures, the other animals in the tank, but these two carry a lot of the movie and bring a lot of the heart out of the movie. So top 7, Joe, what's your number 7?
Before we go into number 7, I want to comment on this, which is this is an opinion I have about a lot of sequels, but I think some of the Pixar sequels are guilty of it as well, which is part of the reason the sequels don't hit as hard as the originals are because they split up these duos, and we want to see the duos still together. And without their relationship, we lose a lot of what we really enjoyed in the first one. So Finding Dory, splitting up Dory and Marlon Finding Dory, I still really enjoy his movie, but I think it would be better if we saw the characters that we loved together. Exactly. That being said, my number 7 is one of your honorable mentions. I didn't think you were going to bring them up. Dash and Violet. I think in The Incredibles, they're just kind of more of a duo than Mr. and Mrs. Incredible. I think their sibling dynamic is iconic. They truly get on each other's nerves. They push each other's buttons. It is such a sibling dynamic. It is a little extra, just because of superpowers. But throughout the movie, they're always together. Like there's scenes on the island where they're in the cave and then they leave. They also put together like great action sequences. They work together well, and underneath all of that, like picking on each other, they really do care about one another. And I think in both Incredibles 1 and 2, they are a stronger duo than their parents because they're just together more, and they have to work together. And they're younger, so they haven't experienced they haven't actually gotten to use their powers. So anytime they use their powers, there's just a little bit more energy there, as opposed to Mr. and Mrs. Incredible using their powers in more of a routine. I think they're a great duo, and they weren't one that I initially thought of, but like thinking about it, I think they really are the duo in The Incredibles.
And again, I really enjoy them. And what you brought up was great is that in the third act of both the movies, they're separated into saving the parents, obviously. In the first movie, Elastigirl goes off to save Mr. Incredible and leaves the kids alone, and they go through the jungle and that whole thing. And then the second movie, obviously, Frozone, Mr. Incredible, and Elastigirl are all brainwashed basically with the glasses, and they have to take Jack and go save them. So I think that they have a lot of responsibility too. They gained a lot of responsibility really in the second movie, but also the first movie as well. And again, love them. I prefer Dash a lot more than Violet, so I feel like it's a little more heavy-handed for me. But I get why they're in your top 10 for sure. My number 7 probably will be in your top 3, and that will be Barley and Ian from Onward. So they are number 7. We watched the movie about a month or 2 ago as well. Again, I did all these Pixar rewatches. They're easily the best part of the film. My issues with the film come with side characters and side missions from other characters. They're easily the best part of the film. Holland and Pratt have just such great rapport with each other in the movie. And you can relate to both characters. Even if you're not like them, you can relate to Ian's perspective and you can relate to Barley's perspective, especially if you have a brother. You can relate to both perspectives. The fact that Barley, which is Chris Pratt's character, if I'm correct. Right, Joe? Yeah. So Barley, basically a Dungeons and Dragons like person who just, but it's a real life thing. And Ian just doesn't believe in that. But to see his father, he has to believe in that. So their dynamic is great. The fact that Barley had a dad, but really Barley was kind of Ian's dad because Ian never really met his dad, died right before Ian was, when Ian was again born. So their relationship, especially towards that third act, really the ending of the movie, when Ian realizes Barley's his real dad, really. His father figure, metaphorically father figure in the movie, is really a great message for everyone, not just kids, but adults as well. Even though you probably would like your actual, blood father to be there, sometimes, a lot of people don't have that. So having that older brother there, realizing that was a great, great message. In my opinion, easily the best part of the movie. So Ian and Barley do come in at number 7 for me. Joe, your number 6 is?
My number 6, I truly have been. This is a mistake I've made far too many times on Pixar lists. I've been sleeping on Coco, and I'm not going to make that mistake in this list. So my number 6 is Miguel and Hector. I was stalling because I wasn't positive that I knew Miguel's name.
Miguel and Hector.
But Miguel and Hector, I think they're a great duo, and they're one that sort of grows on you because they start in this place of they both need something from the other person. And it's truly a transactional relationship. And they're reminding one another. It's like, hey, I need this from you. You need this from me. But slowly you get to see how they actually become friends, even though they're not totally admitting it, because again, they need something from one another. The scene where Hector is singing to the man who's fading away from memory, I think it's a beautiful scene. I haven't seen it in a while, but I do remember that's truly one of those moments where it very subtly bonds the two characters, Miguel and Hector. Also, Miguel's first performance with the song Un Poco Loco, I think Hector supporting him and pushing him and kind of like actually, this is the first time Miguel's actually playing music for people. And I think it's just like key moments like that. And it's not so heavy-handed throughout, which is you really think it's like, okay, we're hanging with Hector in order for Miguel to meet his great-grandfather, which makes the reveal of Hector being Miguel's great-grandfather so much better. I can't say in the theater that I was shocked, but it was such a good twist. And I think I've said this before. I don't think a twist needs to be completely unpredictable in order to be a good twist. It just adds something else to the movie. And having them develop a natural relationship before revealing a familiar relationship, I think it is great. So Miguel and Hector are my number 6.
Yeah, great one. And I'm sure I'll be talking about that very soon. My number 6 is Joy and Sadness from Inside Out. I think they're definitely a duo. because obviously in that movie, Joy and Sadness basically get by accidentally leave the headquarters, and they have to journey on to make it back for Riley. But you learn a lot about the two of them when they're not in headquarters. It's rough in the first act of the movie, their relationship. Joy hates Sadness. I mean, that's kind of the truth in the beginning of the movie, because Sadness keeps touching stuff and it's making Riley sad. And she makes her read stuff, puts her in her own box, basically. I mean, it's really embarrassing what Joy did to Sadness in the beginning of the movie. And then, of course,
Joy's a real villain, huh?
Oh, maybe. But then Joy and Sadness, you put Joy as a villain in our last ranking. But Joy and Sadness for me. And then they leave, and their relationship really builds. The fact that because Sadness read all of those books, she knows most of the time where to go. They find Bing Bong, but they still need each other to work. And Joy learns that Sadness is important to a human being. Like, you need Sadness in your life. It can't just be all joyful. And the fact that Joy, it's just an education for her. Just the fact that she really needed this to be the best Joy she can be, which makes her help Riley even more. And the fact that she gives Sadness, the table at the end of the movie was really, really rewarding for what the movie you were just watching. And they have a great relationship. Amy Poehler, I think Phyllis Diller, I forgot her name. She's the person from The Office. But they have a great relationship. Voice acting talent really there as well. So I think they're easily one of the best parts of the movie, and it's why you were very emotional at the end. So I enjoyed both Joy and Sadness. We are about to head into our top 5 Pixar rankings. Before you do that, please hit that like button. And please, guys, we're not really getting a lot of questions in the chat. So we need you guys to ask us a lot of questions in the chat, because we're going to get to all of them once we are done this list. Are there duos that we are kind of forgetting about, or duos that you believe should be in the top 10 that we have not talked about yet? Please let us know in the chat, and we'll talk about that after we're done this ranking. Number 5, Joe, what do you got?
My number 5 is Remy and Linguini from Ratatouille. I think Remy and Linguini, I'm going to have a hard time with this one, are one of the most unique duos on this list, because they can't communicate, or at least they can't communicate in the way that other characters, other duos can communicate. Their stories are sort of parallels of one another, and they form this connection, but they don't really know what's going on in the other's life. And I think that's really interesting, which is like, it's truly just an emotional connection where they sympathize with one another. But Remy has his whole journey with his family and trying to explain to them why cooking means so much to him, whereas Linguini is sort of thrown into this world that he's not prepared for, but he desperately needs to be a part of. I considered for this slot also Remy and the Ghost of Gusteau, but I think this one is it's what makes Ratatouille one of the more unique Pixar films, because it's 2 incredibly well-told stories, one about rats and one about humans, and they flow so well together. Ratatouille is just such a great movie, and Remy and Linguini are my number 5.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. My number 5 is a duo in The Incredibles that we haven't talked about yet. I'm happy that you haven't brought it up. That is, for me, Mr. Incredible and Frozone is my number 5. I love them so much. Their relationship, their friendship is awesome in both movies. Now, yes, does Mr. Incredible already have another duo? Yes. But for me, this is a duo. The fact that their friendship really in the first movie is brilliant. The fact that Mr. Incredible sneaks out with Frozone to listen to police scans to fight crime, even though superheroes were illegal at the time. So the fact that they're both that whole scene of the burning building and Frozone and them escaping, just brilliant stuff. Frozone always helps him out to save the day at the end of the movie. He feels like the 6th piece of the family. So He's always involved in the third act. Sometimes you forget about Frozone's there, and then Frozone just pops up in the third act. They're like, yes, Frozone and Mr. Incredible. They have their own different, how they're really good friends. You can feel like they have their own language with each other. You know what I mean? Like friend language that they only understand. And it's brilliant to see in the movie. And Samuel L. Jackson's hilarious. Craig T. Nelson, they have great chemistry. And I think that they're a pretty underrated duo in Pixar. And that's why I have them so high up on my list at number 5.
Yeah, I totally understand that. You could make a lot of different duos through the entire Incredibles cast. Dash and Mr. Incredible, Jack and the Raccoon, stuff like that. I will spoil it right now. I don't have Mr. Incredible and Frozen on my list, but they're fantastic. And on another list, I would have. They're great. For my number 4, you were very close, Max, but not my not my top 3. Ian and Barley from Onward. They make the same slot as Onward does on my overall top 10 Pixar list. I can't say enough good stuff about this movie and this pairing. Yeah. I mean, there is other stuff going on. There's their mom. There's her subplot, but it's these two are really your focus, and it's so good. I think one of the things that made this duo so perfect for me was something very early on in the movie, which was when Ian shows that he can do magic, when he shows that he has the gift. And Barley, someone who's committed his entire life to learning Dungeons and Dragons and all of this stuff. Barley's not jealous. He is happy for his brother. And that is not something you see in characters very often, which is Barley truly was happy. Like, he wanted to help. He didn't want the power for himself. He wasn't jealous. And that amazes me. And that makes their relationship so much better. One of the most emotional moments in Pixar for me, again, huge recency bias, but is when Ian is going down the list and he's crossing off things that he wanted to do with his dad, and he realizes he did them all with Barley. It's so heartbreaking, and you feel it, and you realize it with him at the same moment. It's so powerful. It's what makes Onward such a great movie for me. And then the ending where Ian realizes that he doesn't need to meet his dad. He doesn't need to meet his dad for the first time. Barley needs to say goodbye to his dad. And it's perfect. It's because there was no satisfying way that Onward was going to end if Ian actually met his dad, because that doesn't happen in real life. That's not relatable. But Barley having this brief chance to say goodbye to his dad is such a perfect way to end the movie. Oh, man, it's such a good movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. The only reason I don't have these two higher up is because I truly feel like the character evolution of Ian is so much more than Barley. Barley's confident in his identity, and there are moments where he shows that, like, he's not perfect. He is insecure about some things, but for the most part, we're watching Ian learn that Barley was his father figure, less than the other way around. So I think Ian is more part of the story, but together they're still such a great duo. I went on for a very long time. Max, what's your number?
Dude, I love that. I mean, it's definitely passionate, man. I love that. But my number 4 is a duo that Joe already brought up, and that is Miguel and Hector from Coco. As I said in my ranking, I think a couple weeks ago we did, Coco was a movie that I watched for the very first time a month ago for rewatches. I missed Coco in 2017, never got back to it. So I watched it for the first time. Hector, for me, slid into top 10, maybe even top 5 favorite Pixar characters. I love the Hector character in the film. I think that their relationship is the best part of the movie. And I think why the twist of Hector being his actual grandfather is because of this is not a bad thing, but the distraction of the De La Cruz character. seems like he was the real center focus of the movie. He was going to be the big twist that he was actually Miguel's grandfather. On top of that, you're pretty distracted by his aura, his famousness, his popularity. And then once you realize it's not Ernesto de la Cruz, you're like, oh my God, is it actually Hector? And it is Hector. And it's very heartbreaking every time when I see Hector sing the song to Remember Me to Coco before he got killed. And then, it's a very heartbreaking scene. And then you go on to the middle movie, and as you said, when Miguel performs for the first time, Hector's dancing, all types of stuff. And just like every family and every friendship, they have their ups and downs, they were together. Then, Hector seems like a very sketchy character in the beginning of the movie. Like, he can never be Miguel's family. He seems way too sketchy. And then it turns out that they're family, and it's really great. Also, Hector's relationship with his wife, or widowed wife, I guess, was also a very underrated part of the movie. So I do love the movie. I really do love the movie, and I think that Hector, one of my favorite characters, but Hector and Miguel are a great Pixar duo. Do you want to add on? You want to go into your top three here?
I feel like I've said my piece about Hector and Miguel. They are great. My number three is something someone's Max already mentioned. My number three is Joy and Sadness. I did have on my Pixar villains list as Joy as a Pixar villain, and I don't take that too seriously. I just think it's a very interesting perspective if you think about it. But I love Inside Out. Joy and Sadness are the dynamic to watch. If we were doing trios, I would throw Bing Bong in there, but it really is. They're absolute opposites. They are the embodiments of opposing emotions, but also emotions that are so connected, because all emotions are connected. They're not, I'm going to contradict myself right away, they're not actually opposites, which is that joy can lead to sadness and sadness can lead to joy. And I think that's an amazing thing for people to watch depicted in a movie. So you mentioned Amy Poehler, Phil Smith, wonderful voice actors. I think Inside Out is probably one of the best voice acted Pixar movies. Maybe a controversial opinion, I don't know. They're so good together because Sadness doesn't have any self-confidence. Like, she is never advocating for herself, and that's just part of her character. And that makes it so much easier for Joy to also not advocate for her or not see her in any sort of way. The only way Joy can see her is the antithesis of everything that Joy wants for Riley. And throughout the movie, she realizes she continues to see sadness as a nuisance, as something that gets in the way. But then she realizes what sadness means, which is that sadness is a cry for help. Sadness is a release of emotion. And that turnaround, that moment where Joy is at the lowest, is at rock bottom, she couldn't go any lower, she loses Bing Bong, that is when she's open to the most change. And that's when she realizes how important sadness is. I would put these two higher on my list, but again, I feel like this is so much Joy's story, and sadness is such a great part of it. But also, we don't see a lot of sadness because sadness is always slinking away. And I think that's part of what makes it such an engaging story, but also what makes it an uneven duo. And I think that's an important thing to note, is that there are a lot of duos that are uneven that I still really enjoy because of their unevenness.
Yeah. I love the point that they are complete opposites. Joy and sadness are two completely different emotions. And I love that you brought that up as well. My number three is Remy and Linguini from Ratatouille. Now, you already talked about it, but I'll get into it in a bit. Another duo that we could have brought up, and I haven't brought it up yet, could be in your top two. I have no idea. And that was also could have been Linguini and Colette. Easily could have been a duo in itself as well. If it was a top 15, it would probably fit in there as well. But for me, Remy and Linguini are easily the duo of the film, and they have a great relationship. At first, when Linguini kind of saves Remy in the beginning of the movie, Remy runs away. Like, he was gone. And then Remy realized that, that he can cook, all this type of stuff. And then just the whole montage of Remy teaching Linguini, not how to cook, but just practicing, was hilarious. Great comedy, great heart as well. And then we find out that Remy begins to get into that system of stealing for the rats, which is totally against, obviously, it's not a good thing to do. It ruins the friendship, and it could easily shut down Linguini's dream, basically, especially find out that Linguini's lineage involved too. And then, Linguini embraces Remy's lineage, basically. Embraces the rats. Even though they shut down the restaurant, he still got his own restaurant, and they could still cook. And the idea of anyone can cook is because not just Remy the rat, but Linguini, a guy who had no cooking ability, could do it as well. Anyone can cook is a great message, and both these characters have that message in completely different ways. One's a rat and one's a guy who can't cook, was told never can cook, and that type of stuff. So again, their relationship is great. I love Ratatouille, one of the best animated movies of the past couple of decades, and I do love Ratatouille. So Ratatouille, yeah. Remy and Linguini are my number 3. Top 2, here we go. Number 2, Joe.
Well, this is the last moment that I'm going to be able to disagree with you, Max. So I'm going to make it count. I am not a romantic person. I don't typically enjoy romantic movies.
Yeah.
But WALL-E is the greatest romance of all time. Max, I don't know what you don't see in WALL-E.
No.
It's so good. You said that WALL-E and Eve, that is the duo, by the way. I totally didn't mention it. I was just going into how much I love WALL-E. WALL-E and Eve are not the best part of the movie. They are the movie. That is it. It's so good. All of these other characters, besides Remy and Linguini, communicate with one another. They use words. They use the way that we communicate with each other. WALL-E and Eve say their names, and that is somehow more powerful. They form such a connection based on actions and physicality and just like intonation versus actual language. I think WALL-E is a fantastic movie that is amazing, and these two are the reason why. Everything else that's going on in the movie is secondary to this relationship. And again, I don't need characters to get together. I often find that duos that get together at the end of a movie often kind of ruin that relationship. This is absolutely not one of them. I think WALL-E and Eve are obviously one of the greatest Pixar duos. They're so good. Their choreography in space, everything about them is just so great and simple. And that really connects with me. And I get that it doesn't connect with you. What's your number 2?
Again, it's fun that we're disagreeing because we can disagree a lot here as well. But I think that, again, I'm not the biggest fan of the movie. They're great in it. That's what I say. And yes, you think it was just a different opinion. So my number 2 is going to be another disagreement. The fact that you didn't put these two in your top 10 for me is criminal. And that is Mike and Sully. They're my number 2. That is insane that they are not in your top 10 for a lot of reasons. You were saying that you heavily favor basically Sully in your over Mike. And it's funny is that I actually prefer Mike more than Sully, especially in the second one. So their relationship is just tier number 1 for me. It's greatness. Easily one of the best friendships in movie history, in my opinion. They're so great. And I'll talk about the first one, then I'll move into the second movie. So in the first one, you really feel their relationship right off the bat. Sully's this big time scare, and Mike is kind of the brains behind the operation. And the fact that Mike could have easily turned in Sully for having the kid, realistically. But Mike tries to think of other ideas. Mike's also battling with a romance issue with Celia and the Roz issue. And there's so much going on. Their relationship is so great in the first movie. The fact that Mike actually saved the door, Boo's door, at the end of the movie was really one of the most emotional things I think in Pixar. The fact that he saved every little piece of that got cut up basically at the end of the movie was so great, because Mike was very anti-Boo for 75% of the movie, really. Even when they were trying to save her, he just wanted to throw her off, especially when he just found a random door and just wanted to throw Boo right in there. So I think that they have a great relationship. In the second movie, we get that Mike always wanted to be a Scare, and he's got family lineage. His dad was a legend, and you get the fact that you need a brains behind the operations. You don't just get the Scarer, and Mike always wanted to be a Scarer, but Mike didn't have. They're just equals for me, and the Monsters University actually does a good job of showing them as equals. While Mike has better tools of being a Scare, he can do a lot different types of scares. He isn't really scary, but Sully has one scare, but he isn't that versatile. So you need both of them together. And I don't know how they're not in your top 10. I think it's criminal that you did not put them in the top 10. Insane, Joe. Insane.
Do you want me to respond to that?
Go ahead.
I mean, truly, it is just some of the actions you described. Some of the selfish thing. It really is just Mike does certain selfish things throughout Monsters Inc. I haven't seen Monsters University in ages, and maybe that would change my mind about it. But Mike's need to just disregard Boo, I can't get behind it. And I get that there's a change there. It's just I feel like through a lot of the movie, Mike is one type of character, and then he does change. But I think Sully. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't even think of this. Sully and Boo are a fantastic duo that neither of us have mentioned. I think of those of those two combinations, Sully and Boo, Sully and Mike, I enjoyed the Sully and Boo relationship more throughout.
Ooh. Wow. Big disagreement here. Tell us in the chat, who do you prefer more, Mike and Sully, or Sully and Boo? I want to hear you guys' thoughts. You can tell where we are, but we're about to head to our number one, and everyone knows our two picks, and I think we can both say it's going to be Woody and Buzz.
Buzz and Woody.
From the 4 Toy Story films, obviously my favorite duo, my favorite two characters, basically my favorite character of all time, favorite movie of all time. So favorite top 3 movies of all time. So Joe, before I go into my thoughts basically of the movie and the duo, let's go into your thoughts of Woody and Buzz.
Well, I'll preface this with just like the fact, Toy Story 4 out of all the Toy Story movies is my least favorite. It's fantastic. Saying your least favorite Toy Story movie is still a huge compliment. But the reason I don't connect to Toy Story 4 as much is because it's lacking that key Buzz and Woody relationship. They do interact, but it's so much more about Woody. And don't get me wrong, I love Woody, but I missed that camaraderie they have, this friendship that's been built up over the past 3 movies. That being said, first Toy Story movie. This is I've said that there are certain duos where one character has a heavier impact on the story, or we're seeing their story more. I think Toy Story 1 does a great job balancing these two characters. It is really Woody's story, Woody coming to terms with this new toy, but you also get this element of Buzz coming to terms with being a toy, and their two journeys together make them hate one another. But it also creates one of the most natural friendships in all Pixar, and it's so good. And then they continue that through Toy Story 2, where they actually do separate Buzz and Woody, but the scenes that Buzz and Woody are in together really demonstrate their friendship and how strong it is. And then in Toy Story 3, which is my favorite Toy Story movie, one of the most heartbreaking moments is this repetition of the image of Buzz trying to shake Woody's hand because they're both moving in different directions, or so they think, and Woody refusing to shake it. And then eventually in the end, when they're headed to the incinerator, Buzz extends his hand to Woody and Woody takes it. And that is the moment that I cry every time. That is that one image of just one character extending his hand to another is so powerful. And I think that says a lot about their dynamic, that just that simple image could encapsulate so much. But I feel like we're going to do a bit of a Logan situation, which is we're going to go back and forth. So Max, take it away.
Yes, yeah, I'll go from movie to movie as well. Again, first movie's my favorite of the Toy Story franchise. Favorite Pixar film, top 3 movies of all time for me. I think that in general, the fact that Buzz doesn't believe he's a toy for most of the movie, and Woody is the prototypical toy. What I love about the Toy Story films that they really nail in the first 3, which actually is why I love 4 so much, is the fact that they said that Woody is supposed to be the leader, but in each movie, the stuff that he says, the people aren't really listening to or believing in, but they believe every word that comes out of Buzz's mouth, which really shows that they have to set up the fact that Buzz really needs to be the leader of the group, and Woody always needed to move on, in my opinion. The way that the movies worked, in my opinion, especially in 3, when they open up the movie and Woody's trying to tell them we might go in the attic, this type of stuff, and then Buzz is like, "Do you really believe what you just said?" And Woody's like, "I don't really know what's going to happen." So like Woody isn't really sure of himself when he talks to the group, but Buzz always is. Buzz is he's a better leader than Woody. But then in the 4th movie, what they did really nail is that Woody understands that. Woody understands that Buzz is a good leader, because Woody's the one who really screwed everything up by jumping out of the college bag in 3, not giving himself an out, and sticking with the group, which is why Bo Peep was a great second chance for him in the 4th film. And Buzz was supposed to be the leader of the group in each movie. And you realize that when Woody talks, everyone kind of dozes off, doesn't really listen. They don't really care. But when Buzz talks, everyone's very alert. And that's why I love the 2 of them. But again, their relationship is so brilliant in each movie. In the second one, obviously, the fake Buzz and the real Buzz, the fact that he knows who the real Buzz is, it's just hilarious stuff. Great comedy as well, the 2 of them have, especially in the 4th one, where Woody teaches Buzz the inner voice, basically, which is a great joke in the 4th one. But honestly, the 3rd one for me is probably the best the 2 of them have been together, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
1's a pretty close second, but 3 absolutely nails the fact that that Buzz really was as I said, the leader in the whole movie, because Woody's gone from everyone else, and everyone looks to Buzz to save the day. But Woody comes back, creates his whole plan. And again, I did cry when I rewatched the film. Not in the fire, actually, but when the Woody and Andy sign off, basically, at the end of the movie, that always gets me. But 4 gets me to cry now every time I've seen the movie 2 or 3 times, when, that To Infinity and Beyond, when Woody and Buzz say bye to each other as well. So I get goosebumps every time. I cry in those 2 scenes for sure. Just a very powerful movie duo, because they shouldn't be friends. One person believes that he's not a toy, he's a space ranger, and Woody is firmly believing that he is ownership of a person. 2 completely different perspectives on being a toy. And we go from the first movie of Woody needing to be owned and Buzz not, going from the end of the 4th movie of Woody now not being owned by anyone. He gets to be free, and Buzz has the responsibility of being the toy. Great storytelling in the 4 movies. I
mean, they have this competition in the beginning, and they get over it. That's not something that a lot of people can say. Like they get over it. It's done, and then they're friends, and their differences make them better friends as opposed to arch rivals. I don't have much more to say. I feel like we've covered it pretty well. They are just iconic Pixar.
Great list, both of us. I think that we have missed a lot of people as well. So let's give a look at the chat. We got some questions coming in, Joe. We have this question: what is your favorite Pixar duo, not based on the characters themselves, but based on their designs? So the best aesthetic duo. That's a great question, Joe. What do you got?
Okay, so I saw this question early on, and I wanted to think about it throughout the list. And I've done that with a couple of these questions, because I realized coming up with the answer on the spot is trickier. I would honestly say, I mean, they're obviously Pixar duos that I'm not thinking of. But I think Wally and Eve they're different aesthetics. They're so distinct, and putting them together really works. You have Eve with these like the clean white edges, the futuristic technology that shifts and is very floaty and fluid, and you have Wally who's very boxy and dirty and just they're total opposites in terms of shape, in terms of coloring, and I think aesthetically it works so well. It's one of those contrasts. I think the animators of this movie really knew what they were doing. I think Joy and Sadness you could also say is kind of similar with the different color tones contrasting one another. That's my opinion, at least.
And I agree. Those were both my picks as well. Wally and Eve definitely in first place for like the look. Sully and Mike as well look great too as a duo. So I think that they're in there as well. Least favorite Pixar duo. So there's a lot of duos. A lot.
Literally any combination of characters in Cars 2. I feel like that's the safest answer I could give.
I think Lightning and I forgot her name.
Sally?
Yeah, they have a good. I think they're a good duo, like a really solid duo.
Cars 2, is she?
Is she in Cars 2? I think I would. I did watch Cars 2 like 2 months ago, and I can't even remember. I'm gonna look right now and make sure. I don't think she is actually. How about that? So yeah, she's not in Cars 2. So Cars 2 probably. Yeah.
Just the movie. Least favorite Pixar duo, Cars 2.
Yeah. What two characters from different Pixar movies would make the best duo? So now I have one in mind that I thought of right away. And that is Rex from Toy Story and Barley from Onward.
Oh,
I think they're great because Barley is very, Dungeons and Dragons, not a video game, but you know what I mean? Like that type of stuff. And then Rex is literally the whole joke of the second movie that he wants to beat Zurg. And I think that their two of them are really intense as well. Rex is really intense as a joke, but also I think they're both really good. That would be the best duo in my opinion.
That's a great one. I don't think I can come up with one better than that. I think I can just throw out some interesting ones.
Go right ahead.
I think Buzz and Marlin would be a very interesting one.
Very interesting.
Like Marlin has some Woody vibes, just sort of that anxiety. I think it would be hilarious to see a space ranger just like, hey, it's all right, man. Because I think Buzz is such that friend where he's like, hey, don't worry about it. It's like he knows how to deal. He can be someone else's stress ball. Let me think.
I have two others, by the way. If you want to
go for it, I'm trying to.
Another side character one that I liked was the Abominable Snowman from Monsters Inc. with Bing Bong from Inside Out. They're a great duo, just because they're just interesting characters, and they both are like interesting things. And then my other one, just a main character one, Woody's my favorite character in Pixar. My second favorite character is Flick. I think they would be a great duo because they both understand the sense of responsibility, really. Flick has to take on this whole amp basically by himself, like, the whole, what do you call it? The whole group of them. What do you call it? Yeah. So just the responsibility. And I think they're both great leaders. So putting them together would be very fascinating.
Mr. Incredible and Sully, I think, could be an interesting one. Both kind of hulking, gentle giants, if you will. Man, there's so many Pixar characters that you could combine. Ooh, Doc Hudson and the old fish. Oh man, I can't remember his name. The old fish in the tank from
Gil.
Gil. Yes, Doc Hudson and Gil.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
They look similar too. They look similar.
I think they both serve similar roles. They're sort of like that old mentor figure.
And I also want to add in too, I think Nemo and Dash are a good duo. Nemo and Dash.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
It's a very immature duo. I think that's a good duo.
Boo and Jack Jack.
Boo and Jack Jack.
That's a fun question.
There's so many. I mean, we can even let's keep thinking about that as we keep going through.
Yeah, let's do it.
Steve Buscemi was my favorite part of Monsters Inc. Was he in the second one? This is Joe's mother. Yeah. So Steve Buscemi as Randall was in the first one, and he is definitely my favorite part as well. One of my favorite parts of the first one. He is in Monsters University as well. You find out in the second one that Randall was actually Mike's roommate in Monsters University, and then Randall goes to the big what do you call it?
The fraternity.
The big frat in Monsters University, and I think it's called Roar, Omega Roar, I think is the big frat on campus. And then Mike goes to the secondary one, and that's when they kind of split up because Sully beats Randall in the scare finals. So, so he is in the second one, not in it as much as the first one, but he's in there. What scene brings tears to your eyes more quickly? Toy Story 3 when they're in the incinerator and grab hands, or Onward when Ian realizes Barley has been his father? Now, personally, Onward is not top 10 Pixar for me, so this is an easy question for me. Toy Story 3 by a mile, just because I love those characters. Because you've gotten those characters for 3 consecutive movies, so it hit me hard more emotionally.
I mean, I love Onward, but I got to go Toy Story 3. That is truly, just reading that out, that made me just like a little sad, and then I got over it. Onward, I've only watched once, and maybe I should watch it again before I continue to praise it so highly. But Toy Story 3, I've watched, I don't know how many times.
A lot.
Enough times to know that that scene in the incinerator, even when you know it's coming, you're still going to cry. Onward, I've only watched it once through, and truly, I think the shock value got me the most. I'm sure that if I watched it again, it would be the same, but I don't know. I haven't rewatched Onward, so it's got to be Toy Story 3.
Yeah. We don't have any more questions for the last 2 minutes. Let's think of do different characters that would make the best duo. I think we should do for the last 2 minutes. Let's keep this is fun. A fun question for me. Joe, do you have one in mind right now?
I see one here. Which secondary duos do you think could carry their own movie?
Oh yeah, sorry. Let's go to that one. Yeah, I don't know why I skipped that one. Yeah, what secondary duos do you think could carry their own movie? Wow. Key and Peele could certainly carry their own movie.
Yeah,
no doubt, from their Toy Story 4 characters, in my opinion.
Secondary characters, it's tough because Pixar does that with their secondary characters, which is they try to make them carry their own movie, and sometimes they're not good.
Cars 2, for example.
Yeah, Cars 2.
Cars 2. Let's think. Secondary duos. Let's just think of secondary duos, really.
Yeah,
I think the Potato Heads could have their own movie. Obviously, I think they're a secondary duo.
Yeah.
I
think Slinky Dog and I'm trying to pair him with someone other than Woody, but I mean,
it's tough.
Slinky's a great character, but I
think both Kaboom could have their own movie. I'm not sure they're a duo, but in the fourth one, they're kind of a duo because they know each other really well. I don't know. If you count them, Duke Kaboom is one of my favorite characters. I'm trying to think. Tough question.
Yeah.
I mean, Dax and Violet are a secondary duo, and they could have their own movie.
Yes, yeah. But I think all of the Incredibles movies are all of the Incredibles. I feel like that's maybe. But I think a Dash and Violet grown-up movie, maybe that would be something.
Yeah. What else could we think of here?
I think possibly if you put in the time, Barley and Ian's mother and the Manticore could probably carry their own movie. I'm honestly down to watch another movie in the Onward universe. I don't even need it to feature Ian and Barley. I think their story is good as is.
Yeah. Mater and Randall as a possible combo. I don't want to see that.
What the hell would that be?
What kind of combo is that? I think Ken and Barbie also can be a take their own movie. Toy Story 3 as well.
You know what? I would be down to see that. I would be down to see a new cast of toys, and they end up at Sunnyside, and Ken and Barbie are mentor figures.
Yeah, I think Ken's easily my top 5 favorite characters in Pixar. I love Ken, but I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think what else can he even do. I don't think there's any more we can think of.
Duos. I think here would be an interesting one. This would be a prequel. A Syndrome and Mirage, like how they got to that, like the masterminding of creating the Omnidroids, like a whole movie of Syndrome and then him establishing his criminal empire. Again, I just love Syndrome, but I think that could be interesting.
Yeah. I would also like to see they made a prequel of like the relationship between Mr. Incredible and Edna, too.
Wow.
Because it feels like they've known each other for a while. Edna's created suits for a lot of different people, I believe. So we could get a huge backstory on that, too.
I don't know. Oh, Edna, back to duos from across Pixar movies. Edna and the old man who fixes Woody in Toy Story 2. You know that?
Gerald.
I think that would be a pretty great duo.
Jerry's Game, yeah. I mean, there's some other ones. What 2 characters from different movies would make the best duo as well? I think that yeah, I know. I think Elastigirl and Merida's mom would be friends really easily. They're very similar mothers in ways. Obviously, completely different situations, but I think they're a fascinating duo as well. But I think we have run out of time because we are over the 1 hour mark for the show. Once again, thank you guys for joining us on this Pixar duos ranking. The comment section should be opening up right now. So leave us your comments of what other rankings you'd like to see on this YouTube channel. Do you want to see more Pixar? Do you want to see some top 10 DreamWorks characters, DreamWorks villains? There's so much. Oh, yeah, we already done DreamWorks villains. Oh, no, we haven't done villains yet.
We could do some more duos.
DreamWorks duos. We can do MCU duos, DCU duos. There's so many things we can do on this channel. So got to leave us a comment for your suggestions. For my YouTube channel, upcoming videos and the past video. So this past week, I reviewed the new Netflix film, The Devil All the Time. That was the movie with Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, Bill Skarsgård, Sebastian Stan, and a lot more. That movie came out Wednesday. I reviewed it on Wednesday, so you can check that review on my channel. The next review on this channel will be Monday morning. I'll be giving you my spoiler review of episode 6 of Lovecraft Country. Really excited for that episode. And hopefully, I'm not sure if Raised by Wolves ends next week, but if it does, I'll be giving you my spoiler review and a general review of Raised by Wolves next week. So you can find my social media in the description below. That was Joe Baldwin. I am Max Dinenberg. Thank you guys.